Live. Apologies for being a little bit behind schedule tonight. As you can see, we're in the studio today. And so what I've got is I've got a touch screen over here to my right, and I've got some video wall over to my left. You see a nice video background. We're going to be talking about the importance of media literacy tonight, right? So we've seen a lot of stuff in the news about what's going on with Donald Trump or whatever, some other things. And so we're going to talk tonight. I'm going to let you in a little bit of my history and my past, and we're going to talk a bit about journalism and as media operators and as agents of information dissemination. We're going to talk a bit about how to read the news properly and how to do things better. But before we get there, it's very important. Naomi, come here. Come over here. Say hi. Say hi to everybody.
Hello.
You can't really see you. Here, say hi.
Hi.
So go back over there. So today is going to be Naomi's first time technical directing. She's switching tonight while I'm talking. So she and I have been working a lot on how to do that, right? And so we're going to be talking about a number of things tonight, but she is going to be the one switching. So I will be right back after this short break. Okay, stop doing that. Go back over here. Okay, this computer is a source, so it has to stay where I left it. Okay, all right. So welcome back, guys. She just needed a little bit of help. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to start talking about a company that I follow a lot, that I've been following for a number of years, called Adfonts Media. Naomi, can you go to camera 2, please? So you'll see up here Adfonts Media. And what they do is they produce a media bias chart. Now, there are many of these. Back to one, Naomi. Back to camera one. There are many of these out there. Adfonts is the one I prefer. But one of the things that we're going to talk about tonight is that how you use charts like this and how you understand what you're seeing on the news, right? I know a couple of years ago, I technical directed a broadcast for North Carolina A&T University on behalf of American Movie Company, where we were broadcasting out. Don Lemon was doing a virtual talk during the pandemic, to North Carolina A&T. And one of the questions Don got was, how do you trust the media with all of the different things that are happening and fake news and all of that? And Don got pretty upset, as upset as he ever gets. But he answered the question quite skillfully and succinctly, as only a broadcaster of his experience and expertise could, which is essentially, we're not up here trying to build these conspiracy theories and trying to mislead people. We're presenting the news as we have it and as we understand it. So what I'm going to take you through now is the media bias chart. So I'm going to go to the interactive chart here on the touchscreen. And we're going to change over the tab. So what I'm going to have you do is just change this tab and then do the side by side. Can you throw it to side by side, Naomi? Good job. So now what we've got on the screen is we've got a side by side, so you can see the chart as I'm going through things. So what you see is all of these different journalistic agencies that are out there, right? You've got everything from Fox News to ABC, The Hill, everything to OAN and InfoWars and the Rachel Maddow Show, Daily Beast. Just everything is here, right? Why is that important? It's important because you're able to come in here and look at all of your various different news outlets and where they line up. Middle bias, skews right, skews left, and then on this axis, more reliable to less reliable, right? So we see where Fox News lands, and we can also see where things like CNN, the Wall Street Journal, and other things land, right? So why is that important? It's important because both for someone like myself, a broadcaster and a journalist, I actually started out in journalism back in the 90s when I was a teenager. I worked when I lived in Alaska. I helped start and create a local television outlet, but I also worked for various agencies, NBC, ABC, UPN when that was a thing, and other more local regional networks that most people would not have heard of, right? So why is that important? Well, when you're out there covering the news, things move quickly. Things change rapidly, right? So we need to be sure that we're presenting the proper news, right? And so all of the journalists that live in this world, they're all looking at how can I best present the news. Now, there are some agencies that skew highly left or highly right that are really just interested in ratings. And so charts like these are really important. Like, they're really important so we can begin to look at and see what, can you throw up the camera one, please? Camera one. They're really important so that we can see how reliable our information is. And now one should never be basing their opinions or their perspectives on any one of these sources. Pick two or three. Try to pick stuff in the middle. But if you prefer something that is a little right of center, let's say the Wall Street Journal, for example, then try to balance that with something that's a little left of center. Say NBC News or CNN or ABC. The Hill is pretty straight up and down the middle, right? So again, why is all this important? Today more than ever, right? Everyone's been following the information about Chat GPT and all these super AIs and all this stuff that's going on, and deep fakes and all this stuff. In today's day and age, it's harder than ever to understand where your information is coming from. Is it reputable or not? Do organizations like Facebook, Instagram, which are owned by Meta, are they really presenting information the way it should be? Are they vetting information? You see all these fact-checking organizations out there. It's important to be media literate, right? In today's day and age, everything is about information, and everything is about how we vet that information. Do we have the appropriate tools? Do we have the appropriate understanding? And in our COVID era, we saw this happen every day. Someone would get sick. Unfortunately, maybe somebody would die. But you would have people on your Twitter or your Facebook or other social media telling you COVID wasn't real, or people that went way overboard and were arguing with people about the fact that COVID was real, and opinions varied. But what wasn't happening was we weren't basing anything we were talking about with our family and friends on actual facts and actual substantiatable data. That's where this stuff comes in. Now we go back to the two shot. That's where this chart comes back in. The side by side, please. Thank you. That's where these charts come in. That's where being able to do your critical research and being able to use your critical thinking apparatus really is so important, because today more than ever, you've got maniacs like me up here telling you what you should think, or telling you what you should be doing, or telling you what to believe, right? And we know two things about what people believe. One, people tend not to believe things based on facts. I can give you all this data, I can give you all kinds of information, but you're going to believe what you believe because you believe it because of some emotional thing. It's like telling someone not to love the person that they love. They're going to love them anyway, no matter what you tell them, or no matter how horrible they're being treated potentially. They're going to love that person anyway. Why? Because our decisions are more informed by feelings than they are by facts. So how do we solve this in our society today, right? Well, it all comes back to being media literate, right? Because in today's world, you've got 1.6 million YouTube channels, 1.6 million people going live on Facebook or wherever, like we're doing tonight. And I had a buddy years ago who said, just because you go live at the same time every week doesn't mean you have a show. You would think I would disagree with that based on what we're doing here every week, but I actually agree with him, because there are lots of people out there, whether it's in the church world, whether it's a stand-up comedian, whether it's an aspiring performer of some kind, or an aspiring politician or educator, who they go live and they think that the fact that they go live every week makes them authoritative. It's like we spoke about last week when we did our video about the need for 10,000, the 10,000 hours to get to expertise. I actually prefer 70,000 because anyone can get to 10,000. Like to be an SME, you really need to be doing the work at the SME level over and over and over again. So I prefer 70,000, but that's just me. Right. So let's get back to media literacy. How does one become media literate? And again, why is it so important? The first thing you got to do is you got to do like we all, I don't say we all, because there's a lot of people different ages out there. But when I was growing up, you know, in social studies class, what did you learn? What was journalism? Who, what, when, why, how, where, right? We don't do that anymore. We will turn on the news and a lot of these news outlets will say an undisclosed source or an anonymous source close to the organization or whatever. And that happens every day now. Why does it happen? Because news stations don't want to get sued. Is really what it boils down to. Is television outlets don't want to get sued by I said that such and so said this, and then they dispute it because it makes things difficult at their job or with their spouse or whatever, at their church, what have you. Right? How did that happen? Well, let me let you in a little secret. I was in the room at Bloomberg a few years ago with the second in command over the FCC. And we were talking, a bunch of us were talking at a journalism conference, right? And everyone kind of agreed that the reason we are where we are, right, isn't because things are wildly politicized now versus then. They are, but that's not the reason why. The reason why is something called the Fairness Doctrine. You might ask, what is the Fairness Doctrine? Well, the Fairness Doctrine was something that existed from time immemorial in this country until Ronald Reagan was president. And as Ronald Reagan was walking out the door, he took away the Fairness Doctrine. Well, what did that do? So the Fairness Doctrine did a lot of things, but one of the main things it did was it stipulated that if you were a news publisher, broadcast, print, what have you, keep in mind this was written decades ago, so things like the internet and social media weren't on the radar yet. But if you were a broadcaster, you had to vet your sources. You had to be able to, under scrutiny, provide information about why this was true and how you knew it was true, right? When they took the Fairness Doctrine away, they took all the teeth out of the FCC. And so you used to be able to get fined and have your license to print or publish or broadcast taken away from you if you were a habitual line stepper. That doesn't exist anymore, hasn't existed since '88, right? So what happened was that gave immediate rise to people like Rush Limbaugh and shock jock radio, guys like Howard Stern, but also all of these sports talk radio kind of places where people are going after Tom Brady or LeBron or whomever, talking, saying whatever they want to say, and there's realistically there's no consequences, right? And so now in that first wave, that first iteration, there wasn't the internet. Internet and social media didn't exist yet. So it was contained mostly to radio and some occasional TV stations. But as the internet came on in the late 90s and then early 2000s and then social media, some of you might not be old enough to remember MySpace, but as that stuff started to come on, all of a sudden you started getting guys like Alex Jones, which are over in the far right, bottom right of the quadrant, right? So what did Alex Jones do? Well, what Alex Jones and a number of these other guys figured out was that if I look like a broadcaster and I sound like a broadcaster, then people are going to assume I'm a broadcaster, right? So why is that important, right? So there was a study done many years ago that suggested that if we have all of this movement happening, maybe go back to camera one, please. If I have all of this movement happening, so I've got the lower third ticker and I've got a box over my head and then I've got another box over here and then I got something happening down here with a title, right? Well, why do we do that? Well, partly we do it because it looks sexy and people come to like it. But the real reason we do that in television is because there have been study after study after study that suggests if I keep movement happening, it acts like a hypnotist's watch. And you will eventually put your feet up, put the remote down, and stick and stay, right? So why? Ratings is why, right? the ratings are the why. So because everything we do in broadcasting is based on how many people are watching, and the commercials and advertisers who are willing to pay millions of dollars for a 30-second commercial spot on any major network. That's the why, right? So if a guy like an Alex Jones can, pick a guy, but who's maybe on the less reputable end, can convince you that they're legitimate, then people will listen and they will believe, right? The other thing that happened was in the late 90s, there was a TV station in the Chicago area. I've been telling the story for years because I think it's important, right? So this TV station, they decided they were not going to do the negativity anymore and all the negative bumpers. So you might not know what a bumper is. What a bumper is that last 5 seconds before you come back from commercial break where the newscaster cuts in and says, is your children's water poisoned tonight at 11, right? That's a bumper, right? And so this TV station stopped doing those things, right? They stopped doing the negative news bump. Well, that TV station was out of business in less than a year. Why? Because people stopped watching the news at 11, because they didn't think that they didn't feel like there was an impetus to watch, because they weren't motivated to, right? Because we've all got lots of stuff in our life going on. And so people didn't watch, and the ratings dipped. When the ratings dipped, the advertising dollar started to slip. Then when the advertising dollar started to slip, you had production values slip, because that money from the advertising dollars is supporting staff and technology and all this other kind of stuff. And so that's what happens in broadcasting, right? So we need to understand that. And so we need to understand that television news and in today's world, live stream news is significantly based on advertising dollars and large corporate oversight and their money, which is why, let me go back to the two-shot, the side-by-side. Go to the side-by-side, please. Thank you, baby. So which is why this is of so much importance. Learning how to understand these things is significantly important. It is something I'm hugely passionate about, and at VOV, something that we are highly motivated to educate everyone on, whether you're 8 or whether you're 98. This is something you need to understand, because this kind of information should inform how you vote. It should inform how you spend your money. It should inform who you fraternize with, who you fellowship with, and the things you do to help support social, political, and economic change in the world we live in. It's something that VOV is hugely committed to. So we don't normally do this on our programs, but if this is something that confuses you, or if you have further questions about what any of this means or why media literacy is important, please reach out to us. Reach out to me on my LinkedIn page. Reach out to us on Facebook. Reach out to us on YouTube. Any of those things, and we will, either myself or someone from the company will respond to you. We can set up sessions to teach you guys how to understand this better, because it's hugely important, not only for our country, but for the future of our world and our species, to be totally honest with you, because we're inching closer. It feels like lately, but early in the program, we talked about Donald Trump, right? I don't want to go into all of the politics or what people do or don't believe, because that's divisive, right? But what I do want to talk about is the thing he posted on his platform last week, talking about how he had insider information that he was going to be arrested on Tuesday. Well, guess what? Tuesday came and went, nothing happened. But a lot of people believed that was going to happen because he put this information out there. And that's, again, where this chart becomes so important, because Donald Trump or any politician is not a reputable source, right? Reddit is not a reputable source. Social media is not a reputable source. So if you see something on social media, just because it's there doesn't mean it's true. Just because it's on the internet doesn't mean it's true. And I want to close off real quick. I want to close off in a minute. Just wanted to check something. I want real quick by doing something. I do this with my daughter all of the time, and she kind of hates it, right? So I'm gonna tell you folks. I'm kidding. She's blinking at me. I'm going to tell you, folks, we have the best words. We have all the words. Like, he does this, right? He does this thing with his hands, right? Which I don't understand. But he does that, and he convinces people by his rhetoric that he's telling you the truth, right? But not just him. You think about religious leaders have been doing this for years. You think about other politicians and business leaders have been doing this for years. Elon Musk does it all the time. He leans into this notion that because he's famous and because he's a billionaire, that means he's correct, that means he's right. Well, listen, that's not always the case. We've seen businesses go under. We've seen whole countries go under because of poor leadership, right? And so where we are now is, as a society, we have to learn how to understand this. You have to learn how to use your critical thinking skills, read what's on the page, and then go, hey, I agree with that or don't agree with that, but we have to be teachable enough, right? We got to be teachable enough to say, you know what, I didn't actually know that. And so because I didn't know that, now I'm going to use that information and I'm going to reevaluate my previously held position. And that's really the key to media literacy, and why it is so important is being able to take on board new information and be able to say, I didn't know that about this closely held belief, but now that I do know that, I'm going to do some more reading and I'm going to do some more research, and I'm going to look to see how I can act or move or believe differently, right? And that is super critical. We see this every day, where you have something happens in the news, something happens out in the public eye, and you have some people who go, oh, I didn't realize that. And then you have other people who go, no, I don't believe it. I don't think that's true. They're lying to us. It's fake news, folks. It's fake news. They're telling you lies. They're not telling you the truth because I have the best truth. And that's what happens. You have some people, that's not to single out Trump or any of his supporters. It's just funny, right? But the point is that we need to learn as a society how to be media literate. And my hope is that some of you, will reach out and we can do some sessions and some trainings about how to read a news article properly, how to tease out the information, how to figure out what's being said versus what you're inferring, and how to control for your own personal biases. What do I mean by that? So when I was in college, I went to college for, you would assume, broadcasting. It's not what I went to college for. I actually hold 2 degrees in theology, right? And one of the things that I learned in college was, whether you're reading the Bible or Shakespeare or the newspaper or your favorite novel, what you have to be able to do is understand the world, the lens you see the world through, because we all have them. We all have them. If, as a New Yorker, I see the world the one way. As a man, I see the world a certain way. As a white person, I see the world a certain way. As a father, I see the world a certain way. And all of those things color my perspective. I have to know and own that. Easier said than done, fair enough. But I have to learn how to do that. Now, when I was in college and studying philosophy and theology and religion and all kinds of other stuff, I learned how to do that, right? Not everyone has those opportunities. So as a company, what we want to start doing, if there's interest in it, is to start helping people understand how to read a piece of information and not automatically go, well, that's wrong because I believe this, and this, right? It's easier said than done, especially if you fall and prey to some of these conspiracy theories on 4chan or Reddit or some of these other places that want to tell you that the earth is shaped like a donut, or that the earth is hollow and there's aliens, and that the earth is flat. And see, Naomi has very, very strong opinions about that. She very strongly believes the earth is round. Right. But what's the point? The point is, there's a lot of fake information out there. There's a lot of bad information, just bad actors out there. There's hackers and all kinds of different groups that are producing stuff. So we have to be able to learn how to do this, right? And because the reason we've gotten to the place in our world today where nobody trusts the government. And I mean, fair enough, maybe some governments shouldn't be trusted, where no one trusts each other, we'll argue with each other all the time, and we just fight on the internet about stuff, is because most of us have either forgotten or never learned how to consider the source, right? And when I was a kid, consider the source was an insult. If someone was saying, make it a joke about your mama or whatever, you just look at them and go, consider the source, and then they'd be like, ouch, right? But really, we have to consider the source. Where do we find this information from? Where did this information come from, right? So, Naomi, camera one. Thanks. So what we have to do is we have to start considering the source, and that's what we're not doing. So, like I said, last thing, right? Last thing tonight. I hope this has been informative. We're going to continue to talk about these kind of things, about the need for expertise, media literacy, understanding media bias, understanding how as a technological society we do better about that. And one of the things we're going to start talking about soon is AI and how that's impacting things, and deep fakes, and what can you do to spot a deep fake, and how can you leverage AI? How can we leverage AI to help us do media better, to help us do news better, to help us do content creation better, help us do engineering better, all of those things. So keep it locked in here. Stick with us every Thursday, 7:30. We're going to have something new for you every week. We've got some really great interviews, coming up soon. We're going to be talking about a up and coming film festival in the next week or so that's based here in New York. I just had a great conversation with Dr. Adrienne Whaley. She's going to be joining us soon. We're going to have some other people joining us soon. So just keep it locked here, folks, for all of your technology and, empowerment and all the things we always talk about. And hope you enjoy the rest of your evening, folks. And remember, we have the best words. I have all the words. I'm just messing with my daughter now because she's right over here and she's shaking her head at me. But at any rate, have a good evening, guys. I hope to see you again next week. I'll look for any kind of feedback or any kind of asks for help or guidance with any of the kind of this or any of the stuff we talk about in the comments section. Have a good evening, guys. Hit end stream on the computer.